So how is Future Trunks so strong in Dragon Ball Super? It's not just because he's a hybrid or because he trained for a very long time. It's also because we recently found out in chapter 16 of the Dragon Ball Super manga that he did indeed train with the Z Sword. And on this video, I want to go a little more in depth on what the Z Sword is and explain how it works. And I want to discuss an observation that I made about Elder Kai and where he may be in the future timeline and what his fate ultimately was. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Emperor Big D for all the updates on the channel, a preview of upcoming content, and much more. Alongside the Potara and the Time Rings, the Z-Sword stands as another piece of legendary Kaioshin lore, and the Supreme Kai knew of this, which is why after the defeat at the hands of Majin Buu, the Supreme Kai took the mortal that he felt had the most potential of anybody, Gohan, to the sacred Kaioshin realm to see if he was noble enough and strong enough to release the Z-Sword and tap into its power. So initially, the Supreme Kai and Kibito really had no idea what the secret of the Z-Sword actually was. They weren't sure if they were supposed to cut Majin Buu with it or maybe use it as just like training like with weights. But Gohan began training with it, and eventually Goku would appear in the sacred world of the Kais and accidentally break the Z-Sword, to the horror of the Supreme Kai and Kibito. Legend had it that he who wielded the Z-Sword would be granted an incredible amount of power, but it wasn't until the Z-Sword was broken that we actually knew what his true secret was, which was that trapped inside the Z-Sword was an ancient Kaioshin from many generations ago. Now, in the original Dragon Ball manga, Old Kai reveals that he was trapped in the Z-Sword by a fearsome foe, but this foe was not as strong as Majin Buu. However, recently this lore has been completely changed. Starting with a Saikyo Jump interview with Toriyama and going further into the early episodes of Dragon Ball Super, we find out that about 75 million years before age, Lord Beerus had a meeting with the Kais and had some kind of dispute, probably over something stupid, and he was indeed the one who sealed the old Kai away in the Z-Sword. This has led to a number of Dragon Ball fans being confused about Beerus' power, and many stating that they believed that Beerus was actually weaker than Majin Buu 75 million years ago. Even though that is possible, the reality is it's probably just a retcon, but if you want a headcanon that one, that's on you. 75 million years is a long time, so maybe Beerus did get stronger and maybe he wasn't as strong back then, but we know for certain now that Lord Beerus is way, way stronger than Majin Buu. I believe this lore was just a victim of classic Toriyama retconning. Once released, the Elder Kai would go ahead and use a mystical technique which allowed the old Kai to unlock the potential of somebody from within without the need for a transformation. This, of course, would be done to Gohan, and that would create what many fans call Mystic Gohan or Ultimate Gohan. Mystic Gohan is actually a fan term from way back in the mid-90s that stuck around for many years. It's not an official term, however, Ultimate Gohan was used in some of the supplementary material, but Mystic Gohan is a cool sounding name even though it's not official. Even though I cannot speak for every Dragon Ball fan, I'm safely gonna say that most Dragon Ball fans, a large percentage of them, assume that the secret of the Z-Sword was the old Kai and not so much the sword itself, and that the old Kai's ability to unlock your power is what the legend was talking about. But then, when we fast forward to Dragon Ball Super Manga Chapter 16, this changes. We find out in Manga Chapter 16 that Future Trunks did indeed train with the Z-Sword as Supreme Kai and Kibito made contact with Future Trunks in the future timeline. Of course, this is the future version of Kaioshin and Kibito because they knew that Babidi and Dabura were planning to resurrect Majin Buu, and Trunks in the future was the only hero capable of helping them out. So Trunks trained with the Z-Sword for an unspecified amount of time and actually became ridiculously powerful just by training with it, just swinging it around. So this means that even without the Elder Kai being there to unlock your potential, there's still magic inside of this Z-Sword. There's still something magical about it that grants you an incredible power, so the legend was indeed true. Of course, many people ask, well, what happened to the Z-Sword of the future and the Elder Kai of the future? Well, in my Dragon Ball Super Manga Chapter 16 review, I actually completely missed a very important point that was brought up to me by Twitter user Blackstorm97, so thank you for that, Blackstorm. and that is that the Z-Sword was in fact destroyed in the future by Dabura. But the difference is that when the Z-Sword was destroyed in the present by Goku and Gohan, it just cracked in half and the old Kai came out. In the Dragon Ball Super Manga chapter, Dabura not only breaks it into many pieces, but disintegrates it. Those are two totally different things, and thus, as a result of this, one can presume that the Elder Kai trapped inside the Z-Sword, the future timeline version, was also dead when the sword was destroyed. Of course, as you know, the Supreme Kai of the future also died during this battle, and thus, as a result of both Kais dying, Lord Beerus would cease to exist because of the connection between the gods. As we recently found out in Dragon Ball Super, if the Supreme Kais all die, then the corresponding God of Destruction from that universe will also cease to exist because they come in a pair, they come in a match, they're linked to each other. And it's things like this that always make me say constantly that if you're a Dragon Ball Super fan, you need to watch the anime and read the manga, or at least be up to date on what's going on with the manga, because Toyotaro adds several extra layers of detail that aren't in the anime and vice versa. Both the anime and the manga are adaptations of Akira Toriyama's original manuscript of the story, with different interpretations from the author Toyotaro or from the Toei team. But both of them are equally important when it comes to answering questions about Dragon Ball Super. Thanks for watching this video. Spread it out. Thank you for supporting Geekdom 101. Hope y'all have a great day.